yourselves to give each of you a hand because your vision starts with a decision. And you all decided to come here today. A lot of us, we were at an all-day event yesterday, but we said no. We got to keep going to the next day. So give yourself a hand. Also, give a hand for Shakidra. Because she also did. Now, I'd like to start off with a quick story. And the story is about a young boy and his uncle. He's around the holidays, and his father comes to the young boy and says, go pick up your uncle at the train station. He's come in, and it's time to go pick him up. Someone's got to do it, and that's going to be you. So the young boy says, okay, but in the back of his mind, he's like, come on! I got to get up off the couch, out of the house. It's cold outside. I don't want to do it. Has anyone been to an airport or a train station or a bus stop during the holiday season? Yeah. Are they fun places to go to? Yeah. Do you come out with the Christmas spirit on your face after a trip to the airport or to the train station? I didn't think so. So the young boy gets out there, he gets to the train station, and that's exactly what he sees. It's just absolute chaos. People running around trying to catch that last minute train. Some person is trying to deal with a crying baby that won't be quiet. And then we've all seen this person time and time again, whether it's at the airport, at the bus stop, at the train station, staring at all the flights, all the info, all the trains coming in, and this guy doesn't know where the hell he's at. He's just in the way of everybody, just staring like this. Did he have a vision? No. So the boy is looking out, and he's saying, how is my uncle going to navigate all this chaos? How is my uncle going to know where I am? How is he going to be able to find me? And that's when he sees him. Out of all the chaos, he sees absolute peace coming his way. His uncle taking nice, long strides, not bumping into anybody, not rushing, moving his cane back and forth, not screaming at anybody, not hollering, not making a scene. And what's surprising is he's going straight to the young boy. So after he sees his uncle, all that chaos goes out the door, and the young boy goes up and he goes up to meet his uncle. His uncle sticks his arm out and puts it on his arm. And he says, how you doing, uncle? The uncle looks around and he says, let's get the hell out of here. So one thing that I learned from my uncle, all those times that I picked him up from the train station, was you don't need sight to see. My uncle is blind in both eyes. In fact, he has 2% tunnel vision. Yet he can get from Long Island to Pennsylvania 30th Street Station without a seeing eye dog or without a person holding his hands. And that's dressed, breakfast, going to the train station, getting on the right train, meeting up with the right nephew, and then going to the right home. Because my uncle can put in his mind where he needs to go, and when you know where you need to go in your mind, your body will naturally follow and take you to where you're supposed to go. That is seeing with vision. That is seeing with purpose. But how many of us here can say that we've been like the other people at the train station, running around to catch that last minute train because we didn't have the vision enough to prepare? Thinking, oh my God, I left my bag at home because I didn't foresee myself rushing in the morning. How many of us have rushed and forgotten something in the morning because we didn't foresee something come up? And I wish I could say I was always been like my uncle, always knew where I wanted to go. But what I've come to realize is for the longest part of my life, I have had no idea what vision was. And there was 3 events that happened in my life that got me to start asking questions differently about the direction of my life. The first one had to deal with the death of my grandfather when I was in the Marine Corps. See, I received a phone call from my mom and said, James, your grandfather is dying, and if you don't go out and fly out to see him, you might never get a chance to again. So I said, okay. My grandfather lives in Honduras, a poor country in Central America, and by the time I got done with all the paperwork that has to do with getting out of the country in the military, we all know what that's like. So I was finally able to get to Honduras. I was super excited because I haven't seen my family in a while. It was a trip to the tropics, you know? It didn't set in that my mother said, there's the dying part with that. So when I get to the old house of my grandmother, and there's my grandfather. laying on the couch. Now, I don't have a lot of memories of my grandfather, unfortunately, and this one is extremely painful because my last memories of him alive, it was like looking at a skeleton. Have you ever looked at someone who is so skinny that you could almost see their face, their bone structure of their face? So I reach out to him, and he grabs my hand, and he says hi to me, and I say hi to him. And at that moment, I realized I don't know who my grandfather is. I know I love him. I know he loves me unconditionally. But what memories do I have of him? What memories do I have of him playing with me, or telling a story to me, or talking about how in the poorest country in Central America, he was able to raise a successful family? So I went through all that, and I remember coming home and my grandfather passing away, and me being very angry with myself because I was telling myself, you let your grandfather die without getting lessons from him. You let your grandfather die leaving this earth without being a part of his life. But then I started to change those questions. I started to ask different questions. I started to change those statements and ask different questions. How can I make it that my family never leaves this earth without getting to know who I am? How can I make it that I'm going to have time to visit my family whenever I want, and it doesn't depend on if my lieutenant says yes or no? So that was the first event. The second event, a year later, my dad, a top earner in his insurance company, couldn't go any higher. So what does he do? He takes the brave step that we've all taken, and some of us here are about to take. He said, I'm going to do it my way. But here's the difference between my father and me. My father didn't have what I have today. My father didn't have a vision of exactly where he wanted to go. He didn't have people around him helping him, guiding him through the process. So what happened? He failed. And when I say he failed, I say that personally because my father took it personally. And my father lost a year of his life due to depression. He was diagnosed bipolar after that. And I remember having phone calls with my mom in Pennsylvania, and I'm over in San Diego, and she said, James, talk to your dad. Please, tell him it's going to be okay. At the time, I was getting out of the Marine Corps, not knowing where the hell I was going either. How can you tell someone it's going to be okay when you don't know how your life's going to pan out? How can I say to my dad, Dad, don't worry about it when I'm over here sweating the things? That was the second event that I started asking different questions. How can I make it that I have enough money that my family never has to go through that again? That they never have to worry about when the next paycheck is coming? That they never have to depend about or worry about going higher because they have limits set on them by other people? And the third event was simply me leaving the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps was my dream out of high school. I remember how bold I was in my counselor's office. They said, James, you don't want to go to high school or go to college? I said, hell no, I'm going to be a United States Marine. And I followed through with that. But 4 years later, I found myself getting out for nothing. I didn't have my dream job on the other side, like so many promises of what's going to happen, all the skills that we get in there. I didn't have, college where I didn't really know what I wanted to study. I had the benefits, but what good is it if you don't have a vision to how to use them properly? So I said, how can I make it to where I know exactly where I'm going to go? And it's funny because have you ever been in such a position in your life where your mind is just ready to receive? Where you got something from a song or a conversation with somebody and you said, they're talking to me. That is exactly what happened when I was watching a movie called Hercules, 2014. It's the adaptation that The Rock did. Now, The Rock in that movie, we all know what The Rock looks like. The Rock looks like The Rock. But there's a point in that movie where The Rock is chained up. He's got these wrapped up around him. And he's struggling to break the chains. He's struggling to get free. He's struggling to save his friends. But he can't do that. So what does he do? He starts to put his shoulders down. His head goes down. And I'm thinking to myself watching this movie, this is Hercules. This is the most powerful being in Greek mythology. If he can't break out of what's holding him back, what hope is there for me? But the movie didn't just end there. The movie ends with his right-hand man. See, The Rock had a group around him that was with him till the end. And his right-hand man, Amphiaraus, said him one question, asked him one question. It was a simple question. He looked at the rock giving up and he said, "Who are you? Are you a murderer? Are you a mercenary who turns his back on the innocents? Are you only the myth behind the legend, or are you the legend?" But then he continues. He says, "We believe in you. We have faith in you. Have faith in yourself and tell me who you are." And it's that time when the rock pulls his head back, Hercules pulls his head back, and he goes, "I am Hercules!" And he breaks the chains. And he saves the day. And when I saw that movie, I said, that's me. I don't know who I am. I am chained up by fear, self-doubt. Well, what's going on with my family? What happened to my grandfather? What's going on in my career? I don't know what the next step, but I knew I had to do something about that. So what I found out is there's 3 ways that you can break the chains today and step into who you're supposed to be. Everybody say 3.
3.
The number 1 thing is your environment. See, what happened to The Rock was he had all these people coming at him, telling him he was this, he was that, he was a murderer, he was a mercenary. That was his environment. It was negative. So when it came time to become who he truly was, he couldn't break those chains because he was thinking about what everybody else thought of him. And isn't that happens a lot when it comes to our vision? We don't create our vision, we let other people create our vision. We live the visions of other people instead of living the visions that we demand for ourselves. And that all changed with environment. First, there's 2 types of environments, mental and physical. I started to change my mental environment because I was thinking, how do I make money? What is this mysterious thing that always seems to elude me? But when I was reading about money, when I was reading about business, I said, man, these people think a lot differently than I do. So I started getting into personal development. And then personal development led me to meet the actual people who started writing these books. Because how many times do we have people in our environment that don't read, that don't change, and don't grow? So what do? We don't read, we don't change, or we don't grow. So if you're not liking where your vision's at right now, take a look at your environment and see what do you need to change. And don't be afraid. Like I said when I started, your vision starts with a decision. If the people that you're with say no to you, was that your decision, yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
No. That was their decision. See, their vision doesn't involve you. So they're going to let you go. And the second thing, the second chain that you can break to increase your vision is to have new experiences. I would not be on this stage today if I didn't go on the first stage. I would not be here today if I stayed in my room playing video games. But what happens so many times is we get comfortable with where we're at. We get comfortable with who we have. We get comfortable with what we have when we don't realize how much we're actually giving up to have those things. But my job pays the bills. Then you could take your family on the vacation that they've always wanted if you did something about that. I'm sure your family loves that you pay the bills for them. I'm sure they love that the internet's paid off so you can text and put on Instagram. But life is more than about that. But so many times we limit our experiences because of chain number 3, and that's fear of failure. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first started speaking, I went to an event where I had 5 minutes. And I'm thinking I'm killing it. I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. Golden nuggets, everybody's writing things down. I'm the best, I'm amazing, I'm the best speaker since Tony Robbins. These people are lucky that it's free, okay? So in my glorious, at this point it's a monologue, I remember hearing a timer go off. I'm thinking to myself, how rude is that person? That person must have somewhere better to be than to listen to me run my mouth, right? So I said, I'm just going to ignore that person's missing out. And then the second goes off, and I'm thinking, man, this person, my God, is probably in the back asleep somewhere, So I kept going. And then the third one was and then at that point I looked at somebody that I knew that was in the audience and they were like, and I said, thank you for your time, and I got off stage. I remember listening to I had a 5 minutes time for speech. Like I said, turned into a 15-minute monologue. And I was so embarrassed because, oh my God, I can't believe I went up there and went over time. That's the biggest thing that they say, don't go over time. Everyone probably thinks I'm an idiot. Everyone probably hates me because I took up I took up 3 whole slots. I didn't close that thing, I started that thing, and I'm pretty sure I ended it too. And I thought about giving up. I thought, you know what? Speaking was cool, but I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to put myself in a position where someone could say something negative about me. But I thought differently. Yeah, my mouth was a little bit drier than how it usually is after my 5-minute talks. But I thought, what did I do good here? I put myself out there. And I was able to talk about something for 15 minutes. That's pretty good. So instead of taking that failure and making failure a reality, because you only fail unless you what? Quit. Exactly. I took that and said, okay, how can I make this better? And I moved forward with that. So again, what were the 3 chains that we must break in order to increase our vision?
Change your environment.
Environment. Number 2?
Experiences.
Experiences. And number 3? Fear of failure. Because if you change your environment, it will lead you to new experiences. And if you are led to new experiences, like I said, they're new, so you'll fail. But all of those will increase how you see not only yourself, but you see your opportunities. And that is how you will increase your vision. If my environment was the same, I wouldn't have a Muay Thai coach. I said, I want to get back into the ring. Immediately, Gerald says, I'll train you. If I didn't have an environment, I wouldn't have received a phone call from that woman over there saying, I'm coming to San Diego, I want to host an event, are you in or are you out? And you would bet it that I said I was in. But I want to leave you with 2 examples, is a bonus chain, if you will. Is we need a constant reminder of what our vision is. Because if you don't have a reminder, everybody else will push their vision onto you and you'll forget. So for instance, you have a card with a saying on there. But the chain breaker isn't about who you are today, it's about who you could be tomorrow. And I want to leave you with my biggest why, which is my family, and 2 quick stories that I have about that. I want to do work in Honduras. That is what my vision is. I want to form a mastermind, and I want to bring up Honduras, the country of Honduras, 2nd poorest country in Central America, highest murder capital rate in the world. I am going to bring a country out of poverty, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
So I remember having a phone call with one of my cousins, and my little cousin, he's about 6 years old. Every time, he's one of those kids, every time you come on, he runs over to the phone to say hi, right? So I asked him a simple question. I was like, hey, Sebastian, what do you want to be when you grow up? See, I'm getting that mindset where if you come talk to me, you're going to have to get real with me about some stuff. And he said, James, he said, cousin, I want to be a millionaire like you. Now, 2 things happened in that. In the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, me too, I want that to happen. But then I realized your vision isn't about you. It's about those around you. See, if your vision is bigger, you will touch more people. Now, I've never talked to my cousin about personal development. I've never talked to him about money. But he sees what I'm doing, and he made the connection. But I also want to talk a little bit something about more serious about what happens when you don't have a vision. My mother is an immigrant from Honduras, a 2-time cancer survivor. And I remember the 2nd time that she had cancer, I flew out to see her, this was in 2016. And we're in the hospital room just sharing time together because I'm not home that much. And she starts crying. I say, Mom, what's wrong? You just beat cancer. And then she looks at me, wipes the tears out of her eyes, and she says, James, at this point in my life, I thought I'd be somewhere else. I want to leave you with this. Do not wait until you're in a hospital bed to want more for yourself. Do not wait until you have to beat cancer 2 times to figure out where you want to go. It's never too early to form a vision. My cousin, he's 6, he's already doing that for himself. And it's never too late to figure yours out. Thank you.